In an era where almost everyone is competing to be seen, heard, and visible online, have you ever noticed that there's a group of people who are almost completely invisible? They don't just post less, they're more like shadows. They exist, but they're not really present in the public digital space. It feels like seeing a mysterious figure who deliberately chooses to stay out of the spotlight. In this video, we're going to uncover what's actually going on behind that choice. And trust me, the psychological reasons behind it probably aren't what you've been assuming. In fact, they might surprise you because the explanation isn't as simple as they're shy or they have nothing interesting to share. Think about it for a moment. There's probably at least one friend or acquaintance in your circle like this, right? Someone who never uploads selfies, never changes their profile picture, never posts status updates, and never makes announcements of any kind. Their social media account is quiet, but the person is very much there, fully present. And sometimes it makes you wonder, why? Do they really have nothing exciting going on? Is their life actually that boring? Or is that silence a deliberate choice, and a choice that reflects something far stronger than simply being inactive? Many people jump to conclusions, oh, they must be insecure, or they're probably antisocial. Some even assume they lack confidence. But when you look at it through a psychological lens, the story is completely different. What we often interpret as a weakness can actually be a reflection of remarkable mental strength. The reality is, many people who rarely show up on social media have a mature sense of self-confidence, strong self-awareness, and a stable psychological foundation. It's not that they reject the digital world, they simply relate to it on their own terms. That's why in this discussion, we're going to break down 5 strong psychological traits commonly found in people who rarely post online. And interestingly enough, these traits suggest that they're not just confident, but often more confident than those who are constantly in the spotlight. Let's go straight to the first point, and this one is crucial. For these people, protecting their mental space and personal life matters far more than getting public attention. This isn't about hiding secrets, and it's not because their lives are boring. They simply understand that some parts of life are more peaceful when they're kept private. In psychology, this tendency is known as a privacy orientation, and it's important to be clear. Having a strong privacy orientation is not a sign of being antisocial. It's about control. They consciously choose what to share, when to share it, and who deserves access to that information. They don't just surrender themselves to algorithms or social pressure that seems to push everyone to constantly be visible. There's a quote that perfectly captures people like this. Their validation doesn't come from notifications, it comes from within. They feel content, happy, and whole without needing the spotlight or a flood of comments. That's why they don't panic when they go a long time without posting anything. Their sense of self-worth isn't defined by digital reactions. Now, let's move on to the second sign. You may have noticed someone who seems completely unaffected by the latest trends. A new challenge pops up, they're unfazed. Something goes viral, they don't jump on it. And that's not because they are out of touch, it's because they have a deep understanding of who they are. In psychology, this trait is known as self-concept clarity. Imagine having such a strong internal compass that you're not easily shaken by external currents. People with clear self-concepts know exactly what matters to them, what their core values are, and what they want to pursue in life. So when trends come and go, they don't feel the need to follow along just to fit in. And here's the key point. Because their self-worth doesn't depend on social media performance, they're able to live more authentically. Their happiness comes from real things, personal achievements, growth, genuine relationships, and honest life experiences. Likes, views, and comments simply aren't the metric that defines their value. Let's move on to the third sign, which is just as compelling. People who rarely post often have a stable emotional foundation. Their confidence doesn't need to be constantly fed by outside attention. Psychologists refer to this as secure self-esteem, and it's very different from fragile self-esteem, which rises and falls based on engagement. Secure self-esteem is steady by nature. These individuals don't need external proof to feel worthy. They don't need to post photos to confirm that they're attractive or interesting. That sense of wholeness already comes from within. And that's what makes them less shaken by negative comments, subtle criticism, or the endless comparisons that are so common in the online world. Now we come to the fourth trait, one that makes these quiet social media users appear even stronger psychologically. This trait has to do with how they process things before taking action. They're not the type to speak impulsively, comment carelessly, or post without thinking. Instead, they tend to reflect, digest, and consider before presenting themselves in public spaces. In psychology, this is known as an internal locus of evaluation. Simply put, they operate by their own internal standards. Their measures of success, satisfaction, and achievement come from personal judgment, not from other people's opinions. So while some feel the need to showcase every accomplishment in order to be seen as successful, these individuals don't need an external stage to validate their progress. Because they rely on internal evaluation, the urge to show off achievements or chase trends is much weaker. Not because they aren't proud of what they have accomplished, but because that sense of pride is already meaningful on a personal level. Many of them feel that the most valuable parts of life are actually more beautiful when kept close and celebrated within a small circle, rather than announced to the entire world. And from here, we move into the fifth sign, which, in my view, represents one of the highest forms of wisdom in the digital age. These individuals are deeply aware that what they see online is often just a filtered version of reality. They understand that a photo that looks happy doesn't necessarily reflect a genuinely happy life. They know that what appears perfect on a screen may simply be the result of editing, lighting, or clever framing. This awareness allows them to see behind digital masks. They recognize that social media is a place where everyone gets to choose which parts of their life to show. And naturally, most people choose the moments that look the best, the most aesthetic, and the most impressive. As a result, they're far less likely to fall into the trap of comparing their own lives to someone else's highlight reel. In psychology, this is known as social comparison theory, and you've probably felt its effects yourself. You're relaxed, scrolling through your feed, and suddenly a strange feeling creeps in. Why does everyone else's life look so amazing? Why do they seem to achieve so much? Why are their vacations so perfect? Why does everything appear to be going so smoothly? And before you realize it, you start comparing. Why does my life feel so ordinary? People who intentionally stay quiet on social media consciously avoid that trap. They understand that constant self-comparison can be mentally exhausting, slowly erode gratitude, and even damage self-esteem. So they limit their consumption, reduce their exposure, and keep their distance from things that could trigger insecurity, not because they're weak, but because they're strong enough to choose what's best for their mental and emotional well-being. When you look at all 5 of these signs together, a clear pattern starts to emerge. They all point to one core principle. These individuals prioritize inner peace above everything else. They don't need to appear perfect, they don't crave attention, and they don't rely on external validation to feel meaningful. They choose to be present in real life, not just present on a screen. This is where many people get it wrong. In a world that's increasingly competitive, louder, and constantly pushing everyone to build a digital persona, those who stay quiet are often seen as lacking confidence. But in reality, the opposite may be true. They're often the most mature, the most emotionally stable, and the most comfortable with who they are. Their silence isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strong self-control. Think about it for a moment. It takes real courage to live without being judged every single day. It takes mental strength to step out of the current with millions of others who are racing to look impressive. And it takes emotional stability to feel enough even when no one is watching or applauding. And that leads us to the central conclusion of this discussion. True confidence isn't about how many people are paying attention to you. It's about how deeply you know your own worth, even when no one is looking. Solid self-worth isn't built on likes, views, or comments, but on the quiet conviction that you matter, even if no one else knows it. Once you start viewing this phenomenon through that lens, patterns that once seemed invisible become clear. Every quiet profile may not be empty, but full. Not inactive, but selective. Not lacking confidence, but grounded in strong self-discipline. A rarely updated profile might belong to someone whose life is far more calm and purposeful than those who post every day. And maybe, when you think about it, you know someone like this, someone who doesn't say much, doesn't post much, yet carries a strong sense of presence in real life. Or perhaps that person is you. And if it is, that's not something strange or wrong. It might actually be a sign of a kind of mental strength that's far more rare than we realize.